I have been waiting for the Steam Deck since we got the chance to place that $5 deposit fee. I sat through many reviews just waiting to get mine in, and I was actually finally able to buy it recently, so hopefully it will arrive soon. But if I'm honest, the Steam Deck doesn't seem like the kind of device that I would want to take with me on commute because it seems to be really big, so I have still been on the lookout for other devices to see if anything else fits my needs. So rather than hoping that the games I want to see come to the Switch so that I can play them portably, I decided to take a chance on a different device, introducing the GPD Win 3, the smallest handheld gaming PC that I have come across. So is this the perfect device for my needs? Is it worth $1,300, basically $700 more than the Steam Deck model I opted for? Let's dive in. For more content, do make sure to subscribe to this channel because we upload fairly often and focus on all sorts of tech products. So do make sure to leave us a like and comment any of your thoughts down below while you're at it. It really helps us with the algorithm. And if you want to support us further, then we've actually got a Patreon open which offers early access to content and special insight to projects that I'm always working on in case that is something that interests you. So links to everything down below. The exterior design consists of plastic for almost the entirety of the build. This device is very heavy, but its footprint is of about the size of the Nintendo Switch Lite, which is insane. Just try to picture something that's that small and dense at the same time. There's definitely quite a bit of hardware packed onto this device, and you will definitely feel it when you're holding it in hand. It's a little bit hard to explain because it's so unique of a feeling. This device features a full set of buttons on the front and they all feel very nice. The D-pad and the face buttons feel like PS Vita buttons, but with more travel, so I think that they feel very nice for a handheld like this. However, the positioning of the very nice thumbsticks with a great grip on them, honestly, by the way, does make handling this device a bit awkward and somewhat uncomfortable. And yes, this device does have some grips around the back, but they aren't pronounced enough to really make this device more ergonomic. This is definitely an awkward device to hold for the most part, unless you're using the bottom half of this device for more D-pad focused games. On the top, you're going to find some vents for cooling, a USB-A port, a sleep-wake button, and a volume rocker, but you will also find a headphone jack, and most importantly, your shoulder buttons with fully analog triggers that feel so satisfying to press. These were very nicely implemented without a doubt. On the back, you're going to find some cooling vents and two remappable buttons. On the bottom, you're going to find a USB-C port as well as your speakers, which are going to be stereo here and bottom firing. On the left, you're going to find a micro SD card slot and a switch for going between keyboard and mouse simulation as well as controller simulation. I obviously tend to stick to the controller configuration. You also get a fingerprint scanner for authentication around the front that's very fast and accurate. So ergonomically, I find this device to falter somewhat. And I am hoping for somewhat of a redesign for the GPD Win 4 when that eventually comes out. Now this device is not only a gaming handheld, but it's also a sidekick loaded with Windows that offers a very satisfying snapping mechanism for when sliding the screen upwards. It's kind of addicting to do it repeatedly. So when you slide it up, you will find the keyboard, which is really just a slab of glass that vibrates whenever you press some of the keys. These keys are uncomfortable to press, if I'm honest, or tap, since these are not really physical pressable keys. But you know what? I appreciate having a keyboard like this because it's still better than using a touch keyboard for when you need to trigger keyboard controls for games that don't always have good controller support. It's come in handy many times, so I can't really complain too much about it. I wouldn't use it for prolonged periods of time at all, but that's obviously not what it's meant for, so it's fine, in my opinion. This device features a 5.5-inch 1280 by 720 IPS display that looks totally fine. It's nothing exceptional by any means, but it's a good resolution for preserving battery life and still offering an HD gaming experience, which this device should be more than capable of offering for the most part. This is a touch display too, so support with Windows 10 is very nice. I think that games look pretty good on this display with pretty good colors and nice saturation. I don't really have too much to say about the screen, it doesn't get all that bright, because I would consider it to really be just about ideal for a device like this, but I do wish that it would get brighter, I suppose. The speakers do sound pretty good, and they are bottom firing. They get pretty loud, and honestly, while they do sound a bit tinny and are definitely lacking in bass, these speakers are still pretty serviceable, so have a listen. So when it comes to the software experience, this will come with Windows 10 by default, but it will push you to update to Windows 11. As much as I like Windows 11, I would not really recommend going for the upgrade on a device like this because Windows 11 is still pretty new, and something like this is likely to not function very well with an operating system that it technically was not designed for. So I would probably avoid doing the upgrade personally. But if you have this upgrade on your GPD Win 3 already and have felt differently about it, then please let me know what you think about it. I could very well be wrong. But overall, the software experience is okay. I literally only use this to go between Steam and Epic Games, not using it for anything else at all. I have this device to immediately start up big picture mode with Steam when turning on, so that I can treat this as a console, at least as much as possible. And that's where I keep things between us, essentially. This device features an Intel Core i7-1195 G7, which is a quad-core 8-thread CPU. It runs on integrated graphics with Intel G12Xe graphics, 16GB of RAM, 1TB of NVMe storage, and 64GB, I think, of eMMC storage for the operating system. It also features a 45 watt-hour battery. This device might seem weak for the price, but it would be very difficult and very expensive to try to fit dedicated graphics on here. Not to mention that that performance exceeded my expectations, and I will talk about that right now. So I wanted to mention that I won't be doing any kind of emulation for this device because I'm personally not interested in a Windows device for emulation. I'm more interested in playing my PC games on the go easily, and that's how I want to focus this review. But rest assured, this is still a fantastic device for emulation, but I would probably not spend $1,300 to emulate games. I would stick to the Ion Odin instead because it's $1,000 cheaper and can emulate up to PS2 quite well as is. But my review on that will come in due time, most likely at the beginning of May. But anyway, let's begin with the game that's on the thumbnail for clicks, Elden Ring. This game is in fact playable on the system, and it might appear to actually run really well at first, but over prolonged gaming sessions, you will notice that this device will definitely struggle to run Elden Ring consistently. However, the PC version of this game is known for having a lot of graphical performance issues, which does come into effect here. You will notice lighting glitches, stutters, and more. But in spite of all those issues, this game runs quite well and again is playable. As long as you're willing to put up with the issues I mentioned, you will still have a great time playing Elden Ring on the system. Just playing a game like this on a handheld is a great achievement. Load times are also pretty good too, by the way, which makes this game feel like it could belong in a handheld like this, at least due in part. Next game I tested is Final Fantasy 15, a game that I have wanted on the Switch since that system was announced. Game streaming wasn't going to do it for me. I needed to be able to play one of my favorite games anywhere. And while this game does run at around 30 FPS, the game still looks great, and I couldn't really find any graphical issues or glitches to point out. However, sometimes when warping around, there is a minor stutter, but I noticed that that's just a thing kind of at the beginning, like when you're just launching the game. But that didn't really bother me all that much anyway, since it was just one of the few times where something like that happened. Granted, for every game I tested here, the fans also kick up and get a little bit loud, but I wouldn't say that it's so loud that it makes playing in public awkward or uncomfortable. It's fine, and I appreciate the performance that I can get with this system. Now, even when fighting the Adamantis, which is the biggest enemy I've fought in any game, you will get decent performance, though there will be more stuttering here and there. It doesn't affect the experience all that much, really, so I would consider Final Fantasy 15 to be a success on this system. Monster Hunter World is one of the games that's already advertised to run well on the system through GPD's own website, and it's very true. This game is the one that run most consistently on this list, and the frame rate was at over 30 FPS. Maybe not 60, but 30 FPS are your typical PS4 performance that you should expect. This is very impressive to me, especially without dedicated graphics. Integrated graphics has really gone far over the past few years to now being able to accomplish these things. That's really what makes handhelds like these possible to begin with. However, I will say that while everything I said so far is positive, playing Monster Hunter on here with this controller layout and the ergonomic design on this device is pretty difficult. It's not comfortable to play this game in particular because with Monster Hunter, you'll have to reach for each button that this system already has on it at many different times, which makes sticking to one grip almost impossible. So while this game does run well, I don't enjoy playing it on this device because of the constant grip shifting. This is something that I did not struggle with when it came to Elden Ring, Ring or Final Fantasy 15, and many more games. But this is also a very specific use case, I suppose. Now, to move over to Epic Games and to play a much less demanding yet a beautiful performer of a game like Kingdom Hearts 2 was a fantastic experience. It runs at 60 FPS with a lot of consistency. It feels like playing PS4 version of this game, which was already a beautiful experience to go through, and I would be very happy going through this game on this system, especially since this is another game that I have always wanted on a handheld. And sure, you can play this game on the Switch, but it defeats the purpose if I can't take the game with me on the go, since we only got the cloud version, which I still think it's kind of ridiculous. Now, Kingdom Hearts 3 is another story. It runs okay for the most part, but this is a pretty demanding game, and it definitely shows on the system. There are times where the game is running at around 20 FPS, sometimes at 30 FPS and during cutscenes, often over 40 FPS, but you should expect somewhere between 20 FPS and 30 FPS. But it is going to greatly fluctuate for the most part. So should you get a system like this to play Kingdom Hearts 3? Probably not, but this might still be one of the best ways of playing this game on the go, at least until I test it on the Steam Deck, if at all possible, when it arrives. So some other games that will run well, but I won't dedicate much time to talk about are Dark Souls 3, Final Fantasy 13, the entire trilogy. Skyrim had initially been marked as unplayable, but it does play and run pretty well, actually. That includes the special edition. Oblivion is also completely playable, even if awkward to play on the system. All of the pixel-perfect remakes of the Final Fantasy games run here with good controller support too. Nier Automata runs nicely, also, which was a pleasant experience. And many, many more games are definitely playable on the system. Not a lot of compatibility issues to note, to be quite frank. So as great as this device has been for PC gaming, there are still some games that this device just won't run very well, if at all. Persona 4 Golden is basically unplayable since there are so many graphical issues popping up as soon as you just launch the game, which is so unfortunate. Guess I will have to stick to playing P4G on my PS Vita if I want to play it on the go. But this was the only game that I tested that straight up wouldn't play properly. However, some games that I do not own that have been marked as unplayable, but I haven't been able to verify, are Cyberpunk 2077, Gears 5, Resident Evil Village, and very few others, but most games should work just fine. So there is also this $80 dock that you can purchase for the system. This dock is made out of plastic and it still isn't really built all that fantastically, but does offer a lot of utility. The dock does offer plenty of ventilation around the back, and this dock does not come with a power adapter, so you must use the one included with your GPD Win 3. I tried out the Nintendo Switch power brick, by the way, but while it's powerful enough to power the dock itself and allow for display to be connected and the ports to work, it will not charge the GPD Win 3. So on the back, you're going to find a USB-C port, an HDMI port, 3 USB-A ports, as well as an Ethernet port. So docking the system here works just as how it would on the Switch, and you can connect a Bluetooth controller for the system to be able to play all of your games docked, which is awesome. I use it all of the time, and I do like the experience. It's the only dock that I would attempt to use with it as well. So battery life is obviously not going to be all that amazing. It's reasonable enough with about 3 hours of battery life on average for most games, but closer to 2 hours with more demanding games. You can attempt certain tweaks to improve battery life, but I would say that it won't be much of an improvement, so you don't necessarily have to rush to see if it's any good. So finally, in conclusion, I have spoken so fast during this video. The system is really cool, and I like a lot of things about it, even if I don't think it's perfect. I would have preferred some changes to the ergonomic design, some cases that are actually meant for it too, even if it does fit inside of Nintendo Switch Lite cases, for the most part. But ultimately, I love the size of this device, which is what makes it so feasible to me. I can actually take my games with me, portably, while avoiding too much attention, which is exactly the kind of Windows handheld that I would like to have. So when the Steam Deck eventually arrives, I don't know if I will prefer it over the GPD Win 3. But I will say this device is too expensive to justify at this point. I already bought it, so I will keep it, and probably check out the GPD Win 4 when that eventually comes out, but the Steam Deck is just a much better value, even if I don't think that I will like it as much. But I will include a comparison, a short one though, with my Steam Deck review in due time. So, in other words, I really can't in good faith recommend this device because of the price, and that's honestly the only thing holding me back from a recommendation, because now there are much more affordable options out there, even if they are very limited. And by the way, so as of recording this video yesterday, like almost right after I had finished writing my script, this bad boy ended up arriving in the mail. So this review might be coming out sooner than I thought would be possible. So I think that's pretty cool. The Steam Deck review should be coming out in due time. I just have to do a decent amount of testing. And by the way, I have tested out Persona 4 Golden on this, and even though it's marked as incompatible, it does run quite well on the Steam Deck as of now, which should be April 16th. So yeah. So thank you so much for watching this video all the way up until the very end. I know that this was a long one, but thank you so much for sticking around. Affiliate links down to the GPD Win 3 as well as the dock itself are going to be left in the description in case you're interested in getting the system. And the dock itself, which I strongly recommend that you get together. So yeah, affiliate links down below. If you use those links, you'd be helping out the channel quite a bit. There's also going to be ABUNDA, which is going to be a great way of being able to finance a system like this in case you just wanted to pay for it a little bit more slowly. I totally get it. So links to that down below. And now back to the thanks. Very special thanks to every patron. All of you have been fantastic. Thank you so much for supporting Tech Summit all the way up until now. And yeah, well, it is always appreciated. And yeah, I hope that you have been enjoying the perks that come with being a patron. Now, I also wanted to wish you all a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. And follow me on Twitch and Instagram. I'm very long-winded right now. So until then, have a wonderful day. This has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Enjoy. Goodbye.